Good evening, guys. Welcome back to the 38th Malaysian Architecture Education Online Series, proudly presented by MASA. Hope you guys are doing well and thank you for joining us again for tonight. So, for those who are new, MASA is known as Malaysia Architecture Student Alliance and is a non-profit student committee acting directly under C.A.M.P, which is the Pertubuhan Architect Malaysia, consisting of students representatives from all architecture institutes in Malaysia. During this time of MCO, MASA and C.A.M.P have decided to launch this online lecture series for students to be more productive and gain more insight. Architect Ajanta is the head of C.A.M.P education and Dr. 𝐋𝐨𝐯𝐞 is the convener. My name is 𝐶𝐶, MASA representative from UCSI University, and I will be your moderator for today. I would like to introduce the speaker for tonight, architect Nur Safuraa Abd Razak. She exposed to architecture since young and is now an associate and head of design department at AbRaz Arkitek. She is also the founder of a lifestyle brand Mowgli Store, events coordination team Kokurikulum, and a design and research studio called @FitRoots, as well as the co-founder of an interior design studio called C.A.M.P. C.A.M.P. She completed both her Bachelor in Architectural Design and Master of Architecture in Royal Melbourne Institute of Technology in 2011. A year of her Master was spent in Innsbruck University, Austria, and Berlin, Germany. She received her LAMP Part 3 certification in 2016 and LAMP Interior Design certification this year. Architect Safuraa began her architectural career in mass housing and is currently involved in institutional and commercial projects. Her recent interior design works revolve mostly on hospitality and F&B. Other than architecture, her latest achievement is completing the Phase 2 Nike craftwear testing program under New York-based artist Tom Sachs, as only one over 84 selected participants in the world and one in Malaysia, where her artwork is currently being exhibited at Rockefeller Center, New York. With her title of the talk, How to Love Architecture. The talk is going to unpack the good and bad of the architectural profession, alternative ways of feeding your creativity, as well as steps on staying relevant. Being raised in a family of architects, architect Safuraa has been exposed to the profession as early as she can remember. She will share her experience being raised in an architectural household, how she combats her love-hate relationship with it, and the offbeat path she has chosen for herself. So sit back and relax. We will have Q&A session at the end of the talk. But if you have any question during the sharing, feel free to type them down in the chat box so we can attend to the speaker at the end of the sharing. So without further ado, let's welcome architect Nur Safuraa Abd Razak. Hi, architect Safuraa.
Hi.
How are you tonight?
Good. Excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Okay, all right, it's cool. So I will pass the floor to you now.
Okay. First of all, thanks again for inviting me to be part of this talk. I'm really honored. Actually, I've always wanted to be a lecturer since uni, but I never got around it. And this is my first time doing so. So just bear with me. It's my first time, so forgive me if anything happens. Let me just share you my screen. All right. Excuse me. All right. So it was quite difficult for me to think of a particular topic, knowing that most of you are students. But I finally decided on one, which was very personal to me. Yes, I hope that you would be able to benefit from it as I share my experience. As you know, as everyone has told you, it's really amazing and great to be able to love what you do. I feel like love is an infinite amount of passion. So when you love something, you're passionate about it regardless of how or what you experience with it. Architecture is everywhere. So what is not to love about it? It's like you experience it in your everyday life, you experience it everywhere. But because just like most of you students who are watching today, most of you decided on that huge leap, which was to turn your passion into your career, which becomes your duty and obligations. So that in turn might turn your love towards it into resentment. So it doesn't help that architecture is one of the most difficult courses in the world. And when you start architecture throughout your years, you have this your institution or your friends, they talk a lot about star architects and their accomplishments, but no one really talks about how human they are, how they do experience the same emotions as all of us. So just like you, I experienced all these emotions when I was in architecture school. I'm not. Before we move on, I'm not an expert. I'm not here with a cure for you to like just blindly love architecture, but neither am I here to share you a crazy story that is out of this world. But I would love to share my experience so far. For those, and I hope for those who feel like they're stuck in a tunnel and they can't see the light in the end, that there are a lot of windows of opportunities along the way that you can experience. So hi, I am, for students out there, I am the future you, well, kinda. I am an architect now, as Ling has mentioned. I've practiced for 10 years. I've done a lot of different projects. I think, as she mentioned, one of my first projects was a terrace housing project. I was just assistant, and lately I've been exposed to so many different projects, both built and unbuilt. So this is probably the only page that you will see my work, because after this I'm not going to show any more of my work. So I done food kiosk, multi-housing, single housing, a rugby stadium, fire station. My favorite project was a container villa, and I recently did a cafe. And then the container villa, someone came up to me, and then I ended up doing a container resort. And some of my favorite proposals was a convertible car park and a community center. So just to put things into context, I am a millennial, so you understand where I'm coming from. I was, when phones were all, Nokia was a thing. We did have emails when I grew up. We were exposed by the early Photoshop. There was a lot of blogging. There was no Instagram. There was no social media. A lot of chatting through IRC, ICQ. And we didn't have Facebook, so we had Friends Day on MySpace. My parents were baby boomers. Both of them were architects, and they had 4 children, and I'm the 4th one. My eldest brother and I ended up being architects. My other sisters did business and industrial design. It was a very creative household, so they encouraged results and that would give back rewards. So they encouraged that. And I played a lot with architecture models, so that was a bit uncommon. They were my doll houses, and I used my Polly Pocket in them. I spent a lot of time, my parents were very, very busy, so I spent a lot of time in their respective offices. My dad was more of an expressive designer, and my mom was more of like a technical architect, so she was more of medical planning. Family dinners were in fact very intense sometimes. 5 out of 6 of us worked in the same company. So a lot talk about business and architecture, which is nice, but not all the time. So as a 4th child, I had like different experiences than my siblings. Obviously, I was the youngest. I was really into science. I loved Bill Nye the Science Guy. I was a big dork. Again, as I mentioned, I was exposed to Photoshop early, so that was Photoshop 5.0. Yes, I don't know what version it is now, but it was a long time ago. And I love to do graphics. At the same time, when I was about in primary school, I started making my own web pages, because they had this thing called GeoCities. They had like website generators. My first website was a Jet Li fan page. I was obsessed with him. And So Weird, the TV show webpage. I archived all the episodes that they did. And I did some blogging as well. So in the beginning of my childhood, I wanted to be an artist. I wanted to do something creative. Never crossed my mind to be an architect, but at first I wanted to be an artist. And I loved history. I love the idea of discovering. So at some point in primary school, I wanted to be an archaeologist as well, but there was no one to relate to, so I scratched the idea. And when I was in Form 1, I joined a filming school. I joined a filming club, and I thought, wow, I could do this for the rest of my life. So that stuck with me for a long time. And then the Lord of the Rings movie came out, and my dad gave me a video camera, and I decided, wow, I would love to be a cinematographer. So in high school, I was in science stream because I wanted to play it safe, but I had everything planned out. My plan was in order to do filming, to achieve my dreams, I would get into art and design and then do digital art and then eventually go to filming school. So that begins my year 0, where I start discovering myself and start going to foundation, which is my first year in outside high school. So I didn't know what I was gonna face. Being from science and jumping into art and design was a big leap for me. I was a fish out of water. My friends were very talented. I had to work extra hard, but it paid out in the end, and I had fun. Our tutor, his name was Stephen Hope. He exposed us to a lot of artists, and one of it was Andy Goldsworthy, and he exposed us to a lot of music and architecture as well. And I don't know if it was him, but he influenced me a lot about the architecture culture. But he encourages to always be curious. So ironic enough, there is a special there was a special foundation for architecture, and I went to art and design to do anything but that. But somehow because I had a science background, and I don't know, maybe it's my upbringing, but I gravitated towards that in the end for my freedom project. And in the end, my tutor Steve was like, okay, you know what, I think you're destined to be in architecture school. So yes, contrary of like most of people would think, I did not do architecture because my parents forced me to. I just naturally went to did architecture because it felt right. So then I discovered when Steve was exposing me through all the works and stuff, I discovered that actually architecture is a marriage between art and science. And I love both of them. And what a beautiful marriage. And I was all up for that. So then begin my journey as an architecture student. But I still love photography. I still love cinematography. And I still love Lord of the Rings. So I did end up fulfilled my dream anyway. So I went to New Zealand and did the whole tour and started taking photos. So that's what got me into photography when I was 18 years old. And when I came back, I somehow, funny because I didn't think that I did that well in foundation, but maybe they saw how hard I worked. And my RMIT gave me an amount of money as a gift, as a partial scholarship. I was chosen, and I blew all of that money on a new SLR since that was my new hobby. So yes, I was gonna go to my mom's uni, RMIT, probably have the same, and eventually got the same lecturer as her. That was my destiny, and I was excited. So before we move further, I'm just gonna share the big picture of how to be an architect. To be an architect is a very long process. I think most of you are familiar with. In a perfect world, it takes about 8 years plus to be a registered architect in Malaysia. Obviously, I did not make that time. But I guess I did achieve it in a short time. But because it was a long time, I felt like I still need some creative outlet. It was really draggy, so I ended up doing a lot of creative side jobs and creative hobbies in between. So even though architecture could be long, difficult, and unforgiving, I just want to share my experience so that you know that it is rewarding, stimulating, and flexible. So architects are known to be late bloomers. Most of the architects we know, some of them actually like only started being more successful and more known in when they were much older. Okay, but besides being an architect in the most conventional way, there is I know someone who has become an architect by not being one. And that is Virgil Abloh. He's a fashion designer, but he was trained as an architect. He created this brand called Off-White. It's a fashion label based in Milan. And this fashion label is encourages people to think outside the box. So you don't require to wear the clothes, but you just need to have the same, just work with the philosophy. So Virgil started a Bachelor of Science, and then he did Masters of Architecture. He worked for a while and then realized that he loved fashion, but he was raised, his mom was a seamstress, so it was natural that he got into fashion. And that fashion turned out into Off-White, and eventually he became the LV artistic director, and then eventually he had some collaboration with architecture firms. So Off-White was like known for their collaborations. I think that kind of, for me, that was the most distinctive thing about them. Like, I love how they react and collaborate with other brands. That's unpredictable. But one of the most amazing, for me, monumental collaborations was when they collaborated with OMA. I think you're familiar with that. That the huge architecture company. These guys created this company called AMO for research and design. So recently he collaborated with them in to design one of their flagship stores. So after all that fashion experience, eventually he got back into architecture. And this year he ended up using his engineering and architecture background to design a set design with to collaborate a set design with Play Clubbing. That was for LV, and yeah, so that's the unconventional route to being an architect. So architecture is a long-term relationship. Yeah, maybe this is a bit dramatic, but it is a huge sacrifice. You sacrifice your social life. I feel like it was overwhelming. I think doing architecture was emotionally overwhelming. I experienced so much emotions as I went through my course, which includes depression. And these kind of emotions come and go. I think it's important that everyone acknowledge that the course is very difficult, and like it really challenges your mental health. But this psychiatrist called Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, she wrote a book about getting over loss, but she did mention that beautiful people don't just happen. They happen when they've gone through some struggle and no loss. And I felt like I could relate to that. So in the first year, I was in denial. Like I had no idea. That I was gonna like give myself out to this torture, but my eyes were opened up, and I was exposed to so many things. And in my first year, I was like a sponge, like you guys, like absorbing whatever I could get. And I felt like I love architecture for that. I love that it was such an eye opener, even in my first year. Like I look at a lot of things differently. In my second year, I was a bit more frustrated because it was like I was living in a really bad life condition. I was nocturnal, and I had eye bags and whatever. And my number one diet was ramen. And after all that work and suffering, I work on months, and then I have to present to a stranger or two my project, and that stranger is the one who determines whether I pass or not, which is very frustrating because sometimes they don't get me. I mean, I tend to be emotional with these things, but I think after going through it so many times, I realized that I realized to be in control of my emotions, and and that's what architecture did for me. even though we're so passionate about our work, we need to learn how to detach our emotions toward our work to a certain extent, so that so that we can be able to receive positive criticism. So in the middle of my year, my architecture school year, when I was in year 3, I was already starting to doubt myself. I couldn't, it was halfway, I was exhausted and I didn't know if I could go on. And obviously I cannot turn back time. And it was a whole glass half full situation where I was like, oh, well, I did go through all this, like so I'm sure I can move forward, or like, oh, but I did go through all that and I think it might get worse. But then I realized like it was important to celebrate the little achievements in life and the little wins in life. So I think the best way to move forward is to look back and see the mistakes I've done and what I've learned and improve and just keep going. And in my 4th year, I was a bit depressed because that was my first year of architecture, and I didn't think that I was really good enough. I felt like my friends were very skillful in whatever they were focused on, and I was just like, I felt like a bit mediocre. And I started questioning, like, do I deserve to be here, or am I just lucky? And I didn't think I was bad the whole time. I did think I was good. At some point, I did think I did okay, but this is like a never-ending struggle, like a roller coaster of emotions. Sometimes you feel you're good, sometimes you feel like you're not deserving. And even though finishing my part 2 was really near, like I could see it right in front of me, I knew that there were a lot of obstacles along the way that was very demotivating. So that's what you call imposter syndrome. And then, but like, little did I know that all the smart and successful people that you think have their shit together actually like go through this. So I should feel happy that I had imposter syndrome. But no. But eventually I did gain my self-confidence, which I loved. I think all my self-confidence right now is because of architecture, because of public speaking and presenting. So that there goes the final year where I was just like, okay, let's get it over and done with. It was a borderline of being cocky and complacent as well, because I felt like everybody felt like they were the shit, like they were the 5th year compared to the other lower year students, and totally like oblivious to like not even realizing that they're actually just beginning their career. But at the same time, after 5 years, you tend to become I tend to become this like machine, like inputting all the brief and just like doing work, which is not healthy, because I felt like I wasn't challenging myself enough. But at some point, I had a really bad crit, and then I was really upset. And then when I finally accepted that these failures will come and go, I tend to understand that in architecture there's always failures. You just have to take risks, and that's what I learned from architecture school. So architecture school is like a marathon. For me, I don't know about how you guys look at marathons, but for me, it's like in marathons, I don't care if I win. I just want to finish the race. So I did. And I was ready to be a cat monkey to draw toilet details for the rest of my life. Okay, so this is when I stopped talking about architecture school or in architecture, and I'm going to start talking about my other side of my life that is parallel to my architecture experience. So during that 5 years when I went to architecture school, I was also finding my edge. I was cheating on architecture school. I was in Melbourne. I had a lot of friends. I had fun at the studio in the lab, but I was also burned out when I was in school, and I needed some escapism. I needed some outlet, and I wanted to use my imagination and my creativity without having to justify it all the time. So that time before Instagram existed, I had a blog. So I uploaded all my pictures there, and yep. And then I started exploring more just to open up my mind. I started playing dress up, using my imagination. I started traveling more to see the world, just to keep myself inspired in school. And I did a lot of gallery hopping. And the gallery hopping actually inspired me to join an exhibition to display my works. So at some point, with all those like blogging and posting and stuff like that, I was one of my seniors in high school recognized me, and she was like, "Okay, I'll give you your first paid gig. I'll give you $100 to take a picture of my birthday party." So remember this face because I will mention her again. And because of that, someone saw that work, and then I got my first international paid gig. And then I got my first international feature in an online magazine. And then somehow I stumbled upon my first art feature. I started creating art. So those experiences were very unpredictable, but because I kept experimenting and I kept on using my creativity for whatever that came to me, I ended up learning a lot. So I encourage students and everyone to keep experimenting. So as I mentioned earlier, in my third year, I was a bit depressed, and I needed, and I was feeling all these feelings that I told you about. And I felt like life was super mundane, and I felt mediocre, and I needed a change of scenery. So an opportunity came up when I was in third year. Apparently, you can apply for an exchange student program to go away for 6 months or 1 semester or 2 semesters. That was my chance to see the world, because even though I was in Melbourne, I was living with my family. My friends were the friends that I knew in Malaysia, and I was just in uni the whole time, so I didn't experience much. So this change of scenery would be a good experience, so that I see what's out there. So my first choice was to move to the mountains and isolate myself and learn about myself and self-reflect. That mountain, town happened to be an Olympic ski town. And then my next destination was to move to Germany and Berlin, learning the same language. So really outside of my comfort zone. Going to uni with German classes, and like being exposed to all these like risks and like new atmospheres and environment. But it was great because I was thrown out there. I learned a lot, because Berlin is like a really good place to study in, because it was so rich in history and a lot of street culture and a lot of architecture, and it was good exposure. It was good to be thrown in the sharks like that. So another thing about exchange student program, maybe some of you can still apply for. The one that I had, like one thing, you didn't have to apply for a school that was recognized, because your credits will be transferred back to your uni. Another thing is like there's no such thing as grades. There was only pass and fail. So that was very liberating, because it was for the first time in my life, I didn't have to care if I was going to get an A+ or a HD. I just needed to do okay, which was not so hard, I think, because they're pretty lenient with exchange students. That was life-changing, and it kind of proved that like if you're like stuck or if you're feeling uninspired, it's good to just keep exploring. So remember the girl that gave me my first paid gig, $100. Okay, well, she turned out to be a really famous blogger in the end, and she contacted me because she was starting an online fashion store while I was in Berlin. Somehow, like at that time, like any creative thing, my friends kept coming to me, not knowing that what I was actually doing. But yeah, and she was like, okay, I need help with banners and stuff, and I'm like, dude, I don't really know these things, but okay, I'll just try it. And so it was a bit crazy, because Kuala Lumpur and Berlin had the time difference, but we made it work. She gave me work before she fell asleep, and then when she woke up, I would do the work, and so that kind of worked out in the end. And like really out of my comfort zone. I was exposed to like the local fashion that was happening in Malaysia when I was Berlin. So I was exposed to all these things. And that time they only had like 5 staff. So like, so we just made, we just like corresponded through emails and stuff like that. And like, it was nice to be part of this when it was still opening and when it just started. And I'm sure you're familiar with this brand. Right now they're huge. So I think it's cool to know that I was part of it in the beginning. So if anyone gives you, so my point is, if everyone gives you an opportunity, even though it's very it's risky and it's really outside of what you imagine yourself to be doing, or just take it, because that's how you progress. That's how you pick up new skills. That's how you realize if you're good at it or not. So when I came home, I was already seasoned. I was a seasoned traveler. I was very confident, And then I started my first studio in my 5th year. And then, so that went well. At first, the tutor told me to not come to class because I missed the first class. But, and I ended up like telling her like, no, I'm going to be good. Like, I'll prove you wrong. And I did, just amazing. So thanks to that confidence, I pulled through. And then I did my final year project, which went pretty well. The presentation went well. I was very happy about that. And then we all celebrated our works, my friends and I. It was lovely. And then we all graduated. We all graduated our final year of architecture. And that was like, we thought that was freedom. So then begins my life as a graduate architect, life after architecture school. I was ready to submit myself and to report for duty to start being an architect. It was a huge reality check because, like I said, when you start working as an architect, it's no longer a passion. It's more of a duty and obligation. I mean, it's no longer just a passion. It's more, there's an additional thing to it, which is duty and obligation. And actually, I joined my family firm and they were already 35 years old. So everything was moving like how it always has been moving. And so I was just a part of a big system. So it wasn't, everything was planned out. It was good and bad because it was kind of a struggle to understand the whole system when I entered. I wasn't a cat monkey, but I was a minute monkey. And that was like much worse than being a cat monkey. I love doing cat. This was just like sitting down and writing things that other consultants and team were saying in meetings that was like, didn't make sense to me, but I just wrote it. And it was super boring. So, but I still felt like, so I started working, but I still felt like something was missing. I wanted a creative outlet. And because I started blogging for a long time and I stopped right when I graduated, I didn't have that outlet. And Instagram just started being famous in Malaysia and I got my first iPhone. So I started I started my Instagram account, my creative Instagram account. That was fun because that was a different format than taking pictures with an SLR. I think anyone who takes photos would understand what I'm saying is that when you take a phone, you're more spontaneous and you're limited to a certain span. So you look at things more closely. And that sort of exposure, that kind of gave me some exposure and that gave me more clients and I started taking more pictures. So suddenly I am a photographer without even realizing. So it is great to keep looking. So even though you feel like you're already, that's the end of the line, you're already in a comfortable position, you're in a permanent job, always keep looking regardless because you don't know what's out there and you might even find extraordinary things. So never stop looking. So eventually I realized, like after my few years, I realized that it was time to start studying. Studying was part 3 is like very, very difficult because the contents were really dry. It's very boring. It's nothing like what you imagine from uni, but I tried to make it interesting from my colorful notes and tried to entertain myself in my own way. So I couldn't wait for this to be over. I had a whole thing planned out after I passed also confident. Usually people don't pass like in the first round, but I just like thought like I couldn't wait to just move on. So I planned a whole 2-month vacation to like with 12 flights after my exam, not knowing if I passed it or not. So yes, that was really life-changing for me because I wanted to see more, I wanted to explore more. But those turned out to be a traumatic experience as well, because I at least experienced 3 natural disasters in 2 months. It was very traumatic. And when I went home, I had to face the fact that I actually failed my papers and I had to redo it. So what a waste of celebratory trip. So yeah, I'm serious about saying that I did experience a natural disaster. So that was really demotivating, because you can only, when I found out I failed, like despite all the natural disasters, but failing the papers was most significant, because when I found out I failed, I was like freaking out, because you can only take the paper once a year. And I was thinking to myself, like, what if I keep failing and every year I have to keep on taking this exam? This is torture. But then I realized, no, I think I should just keep going, because I've gone this far and I just keep studying, you know, what's the worst that can happen? So when I failed my exam, I was like, there are a lot of voices in my head. You know, I was questioning if I wanted to be an architect. I had like really bad posture, and I was like, I want to be my own boss. You know, I want to call my own shots. I want to decide my own thing. I want to be in control of my own design, stuff like that. And I was kind of like inspired from my trip, from that 2 months trip. So I finally decided, okay, why not, since I can't do anything about my exams, why not I create a new entity where I can have a creative outlet and create my little projects and have more control over my projects. So that was really great, because I because that exposed me to business as well. And so I created this brand. I created this brand called Mowgli Store, and I figured out the first product, and I started selling on Instagram. And that was like, making this brand was like the funnest thing after so long, and it was such a nice and exciting new thing to do. And little like surprisingly, like this product ended up being like really famous, and I ended up ordering more and more and more, and ended up selling so many of them. And yeah, what a pleasant surprise. So so many people ask me, like they even thought I wasn't working anymore, but they asked me how I juggle between the two. But somehow I managed to do so, because I love both of them so much that I managed to find time to be at work and be focused and be an architect, and after work or weekends be in that wear that the other hat and experience and do that other job. So that's how I balance through love. I just love both of them. So that passion kind of helped me through it. But anyways, like after all that, it didn't take long. I passed anyway. So yeah. So keep improvising. If life doesn't turn out the way you planned it, you know, do you expect to pass on time or get things finished on time? Just keep improvising and find that there are other means of being happy. And happiness is just a state of mind. So you just have to find ways to do it. So then begins my journey as a professional, as an architect. I was excited to start collaborating with people. I had the confidence. I had my name. I had a title. So I decided, okay, putting my architecture career aside, I decided to open Studio Mowgli. I rented a place behind a laundromat and a barber shop where I could call creative minds and to come and collaborate and talk about design. So one of the first things that I decided to do was find someone who I could collaborate with, and who I could work with. So I was really interested with the idea of fair trade. And I contacted UNHCR, or whether they could connect me with a refugee who needed work, because as I understood, they have trouble getting work, and think they had like some limitations. So UNHCR connected me to this lady who's a sewing teacher, and she's an artisan. She's from Myanmar, and we started. She came over to the studio, and we started playing with yarn, and we ended up with this new product, which complemented my the basket I was selling earlier. So that was really nice, and it was nice exchange of experience and nice exchange of skills. It was a great collaboration, and eventually, because it was not practical for her to come to the studio, I ended up going to her apartment, her condo, and then we worked from her house. We started becoming closer, and then I found out that she started collaborating with her neighbors. Her neighbors were all taking yarn from her house and then going to their own house and creating these pom-poms and giving it back and selling, and then I would buy it back from them. So that was amazing. So I had a long distance relationship with my supplier who did the baskets. And so we corresponded through WhatsApp most of the time. So to give them like designs, I had to draw somewhere, and I wasn't a trained designer or a bag designer or fashion designer. So I used what I knew, which was AutoCAD. So I drew bags with AutoCAD. And eventually I went to Vietnam to meet the makers. And then she took me to the villages, and she explained to me that they had a similar concept as I did with the pom-poms, where she's from a big company, and this company has little centers in different villages which concentrated on specific materials. And so villagers who wanted to make extra cash could go to these centers, pick up their materials, take it home, and collaboratively like create whatever products that they had and sell it back to them. So it was a great community and organization. So I think in this, like, we can take away that collaboration is an amazing thing. It all takes teamwork and collaborating to create better designs, and that applies also with architecture. So after you collaborate, you tend to be inspired by other people. So you want to start diversifying. I was like designing earrings for my friends. It was for my wedding. I had 24 bridesmaids, so I wanted to make earrings. I wanted to give them presents, so I made earrings for all of them. And I realized that I was pretty good at it, so I started making earrings and selling them. That was fun. And then also I dabbled into, because it was a lifestyle brand, I dabbled into fashion as well. So Mowgli had some clothes as well. So that was fun as well. And it was not as easy as I thought it would be. So that was a good lesson. And throughout my experience, like, I think my favorite thing about having this brand was on weekends. It was a good getaway from my work as an architect. I joined like a lot of markets, and I could talk to a lot of makers and craftsmen, and it was a good platform to get to know people. So markets are the best way to connect with other business, small business owners. And one of the most significant thing about most significant and important thing for small business owners who join these markets is Bazaar Ramadan, because this is when they make the most money. But the year that I wanted to join the Bazaar Ramadan, it was too difficult because I didn't really know so many people, and I heard some of my friends struggle, and so we were very sad about it. So I decided, why not make my own bazaar, so that my friends and I could sell and we could have this community together. So why did not getting in any bazaar stop us from doing our thing? So I decided to make my own one. And again, I used my architectural skills. I created the layout. I measured everything carefully. I did an as-built drawing of the space, and it turned out to be a really successful event for a first timer. So I ended up creating an event and collaborating company because of this, because it was so successful, and a lot of other people wanted to collaborate with me. So I love what Casey Neistat says. He's a famous YouTube vlogger. Do what you can't. So just keep doing, and if, like I said, if anything, there's any like dead ends or anything, just do something else and make your own opportunity. Don't wait for people to hand them over to you. So so I promise this is like almost the end of my talk. So at the end of like at some stage in life, like when you go through so many things and when you've done so many things, you evolve as a person. You're still the same person, but you're like you've actually grown. So this year was a very this and last year was a very weird year. With I'm sure you understand, like being stuck at home is not cool at all. I mean, I love working at home, but being forced to work at home is not nice. Everything seemed a bit monotonous and it was uninspiring. But it did. But looking at it in a different light, it actually triggered a lot of us to start new hobbies. So I know that some people started doing TikTok and stuff like that. And I succumbed to plants. I started collecting plants because I started bringing outdoors to indoors. And so it's just amazing how like being in situations like that actually triggers and opens up a different side of us. And that's what I mean about evolving. Like sometimes when you go through hardships or if you go through something, you evolve and you tend to open up a different side of yourself that never knew existed. So I never realized it, but I love gardening now. And then so after all that, like earlier this year, this artist Tom Sachs, he's from New York. He does a lot of work for NASA, and he's really into science oriented art. And he has his own department under Nike called the Nike Craft. So he's known for the shoe called Mars Yard. It's like a really rare shoe. So he posted something calling for phase 2 wear testers for people to submit 1-minute video for them to be these wear testers. So that was interesting. He would send you a shoe and you would just have to test them and submit data to Nike. So I submitted my video. Let's watch it.
This is a submission for Nike Craft Wear Tester Phase 2. My name is Safuraa. I am an architect from always humid, sometimes sunny, sometimes wet, or all the above, Malaysia. My days are long and unpredictable, usually full, always on my feet. Rain or shine, I work hard and play hard. Site visits are my favorite. I can visualize spaces while jumping over wet concrete, squeezing between scaffoldings, climbing over makeshift steps, touching surfaces, and solving problems in situ. The reward for good work is more work. As an architect, I discover and learn to do new things based on current clients and project brief, which pushes me out of my comfort zone regularly. From designing a house in the city, to a seaside resort, to even a national stadium in the wetlands. As a designer, I research, test, and document everything. As a tester, I would do nothing less, if not more. Life is, after all, a constant work in progress, right? Till the next adventure. Good night.
So I submitted that video. It was a last minute decision. I decided that morning itself to record, and I edited everything with iMovie, and I just shared my day of going to site, and my office coincidentally was under construction, and I just wanted to show my life as an architect, and I ended up being chosen 1 out of 84 in the world to be the phase 2 wear tester. So I will be part of history of creating this pair of shoes, and I was also the only Malaysian there, and I happened to be 1 of 84, and two of them were like, some of them were famous. One of them was Virgil Abloh, and the other one was T-Book, which is a basketballer. And so that was really cool to be their peer. We got a package of stuff, and we just had to use the shoes and record our journey. So I was a student again. While testing the shoes, I was also, we all became students again. We met the first phase wear testers, and every Monday we will meet Tom. So Tom Sachs will talk to us and ask us about our experience and check on us. And that is our Monday meetings. And every Friday he would post these challenges, and these challenges, sometimes they're not even related to our shoes. But I think, but it was very related to his philosophy. So we started creating this, getting outside the box and getting out of our comfort zones, started creating all these things that would comply to his challenges. So the left is my cartography. It was basically like 3 layers of information about Taman Aman. And the right is my output station, which is basically like, in a nutshell, it's just a bedside cabinet that had all my bedside essentials. So yeah, I really loved how I got to create all this just being stuck in Malaysia. And if that wasn't cool enough, at some point, Tom told us that all our works would be exhibited in Rockefeller Center, New York, by the end of this course. And that was such a reward for us because we worked so hard on our work. And it was so cool to know that we would be exhibiting next to Jimmy Fallon's studio and Radio City. And suddenly we became artists, and the opening was a success, and people lined up, and it was on June 25th, the opening, and it will be shown until the end of July, which is this month. So that was such an experience. So you can see my work is actually there, and my friends and I were very excited, even though we couldn't see each other because we couldn't travel, but our works could meet each other in one room. It was very fulfilling, and we're very thankful that Tom actually chose us and allowed this thing to happen for us. So it was cool too. So then I evolved, and I finally could call myself an artist. My childhood dream kind of came true. Even though I couldn't draw, I realized that I can create anything and I can still be an artist. And I just need my mind to be creative. So my point is, even though this is not related to architecture at all, but I did use architecture as my niche, and it did, I did stand out because of it. But my point is, just get out of your comfort zone and keep learning. Just like an artist, you're a student your whole life. Just keep being a student your whole life and be open to trying new things and learning new skills. And you never know what you're going to discover about yourself. Yeah, so being an architect is a never-ending journey of self-discovery. People would say that these are distractions, but for me, these are career enrichment. And most parents would probably say oh, you're off track, you're sidetracking, you're not practicing architecture, you're doing other stuff. But no, because I ended up being an AR, I ended up finishing these projects. So it's okay. It's okay to try new things while you're doing, while you're being an architect. I think I would encourage to do that. It will be very enriching, and it would make you who you are as an architect. It will set you apart from everyone else. So keep an open mind with that. So keep creating, and yeah, keep loving architecture. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Architect Safuraa, for the very interesting and rich sharing. I hope you guys enjoy it and get a lot of information and knowledge. So we will be having our Q&A session now. We have got some questions from the audience. The first question is from Penguin. He is asking if you can choose your career again, will you still be an architect?
Yes. I feel like it was really my destiny, because as far as I wanted to go away from it, it kept on coming back, and I think it's in my blood, it's in my mind, and I would never change. I would never turn back time, no doubt about it.
Yeah, okay. I hope that answered the question. So the next question is from Sherry Brenda Michael. She's asking, how do you manage those negative voices from other people, especially your own family and friends? Yeah.
Well, sometimes they can turn out negative to us, but it's just how you hear them and how you listen to them. Sometimes they just know, they just saying it, they just want the best for you, and if they say something negative, I can't deny I will be affected, for sure. I will be affected, but in the end, I think just do your own thing and believe in yourself, and take that emotion, take that sadness, take that sorrow and the frustration, and turn that energy into something more positive. Use that emotion to create better work. So that's how I do my work. I honestly I get you. Like it's like an emotional roller coaster. I am. You feel down a lot of times, but I always use that as my weakness as my strength too. I use that energy to create better work. I work harder, and because I love architecture, that was a great distraction from all those negative statements. So it worked out in the end. So yeah.
Yeah, just keep positive. Yeah.
Yes.
So the next question is, how can an architectural student build their trust to other people again after they destroy it, but don't exactly destroy it by themselves?
After they destroy it, but not destroy it by themselves. Sorry.
Yeah. I think it's like building trust to other people again after they destroy the trust.
Huh?
Exactly, but not by themselves. Yeah, I think it's like they destroy the trust to other people, like how to like
How
recover
to
back.
recover the trust?
Yeah.
I think you should remember that they're just like you. They're human too. So just forgive them as you wish they would forgive you if you were to make a mistake. So look at it that way. Yeah.
I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, I hope I got it right.
Yeah, the next question is from Roslyn Ruslan. Is asking, who inspired you in terms of design and architecture, be it local or international?
It's a mix of local and international. So when I was in uni, I was very inspired by Lakaton Basal and Japanese architects. I like simple but clever use of space. So I love Tezuka architects. I love Atelier Bawao because again I'm a very graphic person. So Atelier Bawao made really amazing drawings. But when I came back for good, I started appreciating local architects more. So architects like I like Kevin Lau. I like Razin Architects. I think they're really clever with space. Yeah, there are a lot of amazing Malaysian architects too. So yeah, I have a mix of international and favorite local architects.
Okay. The next question is from Safina Asmil. She's asking, what is your advice to overcome the difficulties that comes when you are an architecture student, especially when you are learning online?
Oh yes. So how do I overcome that difficulty? Is it?
Yeah, learning online.
I think I would take advantage of it. I would write down what is the positive things that come out from that. Number one is you have more time for yourself. And then you don't waste time walking to uni. You save that time. You don't have to print. That is like torture. Printing time is torture. And I would use that freedom to practice self-discipline, because that self-discipline is a big requirement in our profession. So I would take advantage of it. If you feel uninspired, this is the best time, because in the labs you can't do this, but you can watch movies and listen to music, sing out loud while you do your work. And I think that for me, that was the most memorable part of working at home too, because to be able to listen to music, blasting it, and do your work like you're in a club, so you're like partying while you're doing work. So yeah, take advantage of that.
Okay. The next question is from Amira Husna. She's asking, do you have any advice for students who slowly losing their passion in architecture?
Yes. I think you should look at this in a way where architecture is not, so this is like basically what I was trying to show you as well. Architecture is not just one linear line of being an architect. There are so many ways to enjoy yourself as a designer as well. So if you're being, if you feel like you're losing your passion in architecture, ask yourself, why do you do architecture in the first place? And ask yourself, what are the favorite things? I'm sure you still have some favorite things that you have about architecture. Focus on that and leverage on that and use that as your niche. And like, for instance, if you feel demotivated about making 3Ds or like coming up with ideas, sometimes it's good to just focus on what you're actually good at and focus on what you actually love, and those or maybe like just get out of the box and look at other things, and maybe you get inspired again, and then you come back to architecture with an open heart. Okay, so this is a trick that I have, like when I'm feeling uninspired as an architecture student. When you feel uninspired and you can't come up with a really good original idea, copy. Take something that is existing that you love and plonk it on the side, and then the conversation starts, the dialogue starts. I'm not saying just use it and then submit to your teacher lah. That's crazy lah. But I'm saying just take it, just steal it for a bit, steal that, put it on your side, and then that's when your mind starts triggering, and that's when you start using dialogue. So yeah.
Yeah, I think you can try out this kind of trick.
Yes.
So the next question is from Kohan Sylvian. He's asking, what would your advice be for those who love architecture but are also into physical activities such as sports which physically drains you?
Oh, physically drains you? Boy, you need to control yourself. You need to balance yourself. That you just need time management, because when I was studying, I played a lot of futsal. That was exhausting as well. But I think you need to know your obligations. So sometimes when I play, because my games were at night, sometimes when I play at night, I will come back, take a shower, and use the adrenaline to do my work. So just need to manage your time, find the right time where you're more efficient. So yeah.
I think that's all for the question. So thank you again, Architect Safuraa, and thank you for all the participants for joining us tonight online lecture. We hope you enjoy it, and do keep in touch with our MASA Instagram and Facebook for the next online lecture. So for your information, this lecture is recorded, and the video link and the slide will be posted in our Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Until then, have a nice night, and we will catch you next time. Have a good evening, and bye-bye.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thank you, Architect Safuraa.
Thank you.